The cruise industry has a few secrets that they'd rather keep quiet. And I'm not talking about some basic cruise tips here. I'm talking about the behind the scenes realities that might change how you view your next vacation. I'm Kat, and after more than 40 cruises, I've learned some eye-opening truths about how cruise lines operate. Some of these might surprise you, others might concern you, but all of them will make you a more informed cruiser so that you can make better decisions, save money, and avoid unnecessary stress. Let's start with the first one. You know that luxurious spa with the cruise line's logo or the shops selling souvenirs? Well, many of them are not operated by the cruise line itself, but by third-party contractors. And so this creates a convenient separation when things go wrong. If you have a bad spa experience or questionable medical treatment, the cruise line can often deflect responsibility because that's a separate company. And so there's several companies that typically run spas on cruise ships, and they operate across multiple cruise lines. They train their staff to aggressively upsell products and additional treatments, and that's how they make the real money. Similar to that, many onboard shops are operated by retail companies, not the cruise line itself. So this separation means different refund policies, different complaint procedures, and often less accountability than you might expect. The next secret shocked me when I found it out. Have you ever wondered why the food quality sometimes does not match the glossy brochures? Well, here's a shocking fact. Cruise lines typically spend only about $15 per person per day on food. Now that covers everything: breakfast, lunch, dinner, midnight buffet, room service, and all the snacks in between. For comparison, a single fast food meal on land might cost more than that. So that tight budget explains why you often see ingredients repurposed across different venues and meals. Things like last night's roast beef becomes today's sandwich filling. Now don't get me wrong, cruise food is not bad. Cruise chefs, they work miracles with what they have, but understanding this budget helps explain why that culinary experience might not always match the luxury that you expected from the advertising. Here's the fact that many new cruisers do not realize, and that is that those amazing, hardworking, smiling crew members that make our vacations special often live in conditions that we would not want to be in. Most crew members live at waterline or below in small shared cabins with bunk beds. Many of them share bathrooms with other crew members, and their cabins often lack windows and natural light. They work 7 days a week for contracts lasting usually 6 to 7 months with very limited time off. And many of them work 10 to 12-hour days, sometimes split shifts, making their actual hourly wage much lower than it appears. On top of that, internet access is limited and expensive, making it difficult to stay connected with family back home. And after I learned that, it really made me appreciate them so much more, and I'm so thankful for every person on that ship that works so hard just so that we can have a better vacation. This is what I absolutely cannot stand. You know, those limited time offers and flash sales, all those cruise offers that they promote all the time, they're almost always replaced by new, similar promotions when they end, and the price is somehow magically in the same vicinity of what they were beforehand. The cruise industry across board has adopted this constant sales model where there are always some kind of promotion running. The specific perks change constantly, so it's free gratuities one month, onboard credit the next, but the overall value remains surprisingly consistent. This creates this artificial urgency to book while actually delivering roughly the same value year-round. The book now before this deal ends messaging is really more of a marketing tactic than a genuine limited opportunities. Experienced cruisers know to ignore that sale ending pressure and focus instead on the actual value being offered compared to typical pricing. The buffet is a cruise ship staple on every cruise I've been on, but it comes with food safety challenges that cruise lines don't advertise. You have food sitting in warming trays that can drift into that danger zone temperature where bacteria multiply rapidly, and items at self-service stations are handled by hundreds of passengers, despite the best effort with hand sanitizing stations. I made a video about things that people are still doing at the buffets, and I'll link it here, and I was shocked by all the comments on that video of crazy things that people witnessed that were happening in the buffets. Many people are worried about outbreaks of norovirus or other illnesses that can be often traced back to buffet services or those places where people are handling food, sometimes with their hands, sometimes without washing their hands. To minimize risk, experienced cruisers know to visit the buffet when food is freshly replenished and to be cautious with items that may have been sitting out for extended periods of time, especially if it's an outdoors buffet where you have elements like the heat and the sun that might really spoil food a lot faster. Did you know that when you book a cruise, you agree to a passenger contract that gives the cruise line extensive rights while limiting yours significantly? So this contract allows them to do all kinds of things, like, for example, remove you from the ship at your expense for various reasons, use your image in marketing without additional permission. Most passengers never read this document, but it's legally binding. So the cruise lines count on you clicking agree without understanding what you're really agreeing to. In legal terms, these contracts heavily favor the cruise lines and can make it extremely difficult to seek compensation if something goes wrong during your vacation. So I challenge you, sometime just for fun, read the small print and find out everything that is actually in that contract. But I'm going to point out one big clause, and that's that, that carefully chosen itinerary that made you book the cruise, it can change at any time completely without any meaningful compensation. Cruise line contracts specifically state that itineraries are subject to change for any reason. It could be weather, mechanical issues, port congestion, or even just operational decisions. And so if your dream port gets canceled, all you're legally entitled to is a refund of the port fees for that stop, and it could be $15 to $30. You won't be compensated for the shore excursions you planned, the experiences that you were looking forward to for the last year, or the fact that the main reason you chose that cruise is now gone. And while weather-related changes are understandable, cruise lines have been known to skip ports for some cost-saving measures or to maximize onboard revenue, something that they're much less transparent about. Now, it doesn't happen often, but the key here is stay flexible and know that this can be expected so it does not ruin your vacation. And if you are booking shore excursions, make sure that you can cancel them and get a refund in case you don't make it to port. Here's an interesting fact. Cruise ships are masterfully designed environments that use subtle psychological tactics to maximize your spending. See, the layout of the ship is very intentional. You have main dining room on one end, theaters on the other. You are constantly forced to walk past shops, bars, and casinos to get in between them. By the way, casinos are often positioned so that you must walk through them to reach popular venues, and those venues have scheduled events that make you walk through them. Then, of course, you have the lack of clocks and windows that create a timeless environment where spending feels just less consequential. The music tempo is changing throughout the day to encourage different behaviors. You have faster music near shopping areas, slower in venues where they want you to linger and order more. So these environmental psychology tactics are really carefully implemented, but never really discussed in cruise marketing. Did you know that the exact same cruise might be priced different and come with different perks depending on where you live? Well, cruise lines segment their markets by country of residence, offering different promotions, payment terms, and even onboard benefits based on your location. And for example, UK passengers might get drink packages included, while US passengers don't. Australian cruisers might have gratuities built into their fare, while Americans pay separately. Residents of some countries might have different final payment deadlines than others. And what's more, you can't simply book through another country's website to get better deals. because the cruise lines require proofs of residency to qualify for those country-specific offers. So it's kind of like a geographic price discrimination. It's rarely discussed openly, but it is a standard practice across the industry. The next secret that cruise lines are not telling you is increasing as the years go by, and that is that cruise ships can track you a lot more than you realize. You know that smiling picture you took when you were going on the ship? Many ships have facial recognition system that can track you throughout the ship and monitor your movements. So these modern cruise ships, they have technology to obviously track who is on and off the ships and ports, automatically identify you in professional photos, monitor crowd levels at different areas. On some newer ships now, your movement are tracked in real time through your cruise card, wearable medallion, and often even facial recognition. Now, while cruise lines promote this as enhancing your experience, they're not as open about how this data keeps them optimize onboard spending and build profiles of passenger behavior or what else they do with that information. So it is definitely something that people who are concerned about privacy are worried about. Your cruise cabin isn't as private as you might think. Crew members can and do enter it without your knowledge under various circumstances. So first of all, security can enter if they suspect any kind of rule violations or for wellness checks. Maintenance can access your room to address issues, even if you're not present. And yes, cabin stewards have master keys and can enter whenever needed. While the crew is usually professional and respectful, the reality is that your private cabin is accessible from multiple staff members throughout the cruise. And that do not disturb sign is not a guarantee of privacy. It's more of a polite request, but it can definitely be overridden by operational or security reasons. And if you keep it on your door long enough, they will come in just to check on you to make sure everything is okay. Well, in addition to lack of cabin privacy, that private balcony you splurged on, well, it might not be as private as you think. First of all, you have security cameras on higher decks that can often see into balconies below. Of course, other passengers on higher decks or next door can often see a lot more than you realize, especially at night when your cabin is lit and outside is dark. So cruise lines sell balconies as your private outdoor space, but they rarely mention these visibility limitations that might affect how you use that space. In fact, I was really surprised when I first went on Norwegian Aqua, this was my first time on that class ship, on how pretty much all of their outside ocean view balconies are completely not private. They have a big deck wrapping the ship where you can see what's happening on every balcony above you. The gorgeous wake view from the back of the ship can come with a downside. You can often be in direct path of engine exhaust. There have been studies that found that the air quality on cruise ship decks, particularly in the back, can sometimes contain elevated levels of particulate matter and exhaust components. But this is particularly important on older ships where the funnel design can allow the exhaust to settle on those back decks when the wind is just right. You might notice some black residue on the deck chairs and railings. So the front and the middle of the ship typically will have better air quality, which is something cruise lines don't mention when promoting those beautiful aft-facing balconies and sun decks. Which of these things surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below. And then if you want to learn more how to outsmart some of these cruise line tactics, then check out my videos here. Thank you for watching.